Millionaire cries as street urchin rescues his blind daughter. "Sir, you're the one who kidnapped her," the boy said. "Before we dive into this incredible story, drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. Enjoy the journey." The autumn rain drummed against the windows of Blackwell Industries' executive boardroom as Harrison Blackwell reviewed quarterly reports. At 55, he had built an empire worth $3 billion. But his greatest treasure wasn't in any bank account. It was his 8-year-old daughter, Emma, who had been born blind, but saw the world with a heart full of wonder. "Mr. Blackwell," his assistant's voice crackled through the intercom, unusually shaky. "There's an urgent call from Emma's school." Harrison's blood ran cold. Emma never caused trouble at Riverside Academy. She was a model student, beloved by teachers and classmates alike despite her blindness. "This is Harrison Blackwell," he answered, his voice steady despite the growing dread in his chest. "Mr. Blackwell, this is Principal Martinez. I'm afraid there's been an incident. Emma never arrived at school this morning. The driver, James, was found unconscious beside your limousine 3 blocks from here." The phone slipped from Harrison's, hands clattering onto the mahogany table. His successful world, the meetings, the mergers, the millions, all became meaningless in that instant. "Sir?" His assistant's voice seemed to come from underwater. "Should I cancel your appointments?" Harrison was already moving, grabbing his coat with trembling fingers. "Cancel everything, my daughter is missing." The drive to the scene felt endless. Police cars lined the street, their red and blue lights painting the gray morning in harsh colors. Detective Sarah Coleman approached him immediately, her expression grave. "Mr. Blackwell, we found the limousine abandoned. Your driver has a concussion, but he's stable. He remembers nothing after picking up Emma from your home." Harrison's legs nearly gave out. Emma, his little girl who trusted everyone, who couldn't see danger coming, she was out there somewhere, scared and alone. "Mr. Blackwell." Marcus Thornfield, his business partner and closest friend for 15 years, came running toward him. "I came as soon as I heard. What can I do?" Marcus wrapped Harrison in a supportive embrace, his face etched with concern. "We'll find her, Harrison. I promise you that. I'm putting all my resources behind this search." As they stood together in the rain, Harrison felt a flicker of gratitude. At least he wasn't facing this nightmare alone. But somewhere across the city, in an abandoned building that reeked of decay and despair, Emma sat in a dark basement, her small hands bound, tears streaming down her face as she whispered, "Daddy, please find me." 3 days had passed since Emma's disappearance, and the Blackwell mansion had transformed into a command center of organized chaos. FBI agents occupied the dining room, their laptops and phones creating a constant hum of activity. Maps of the city covered every wall, marked with red pins indicating search areas. Harrison hadn't slept since that first phone call. His usually impeccable appearance had deteriorated. Stubble shadowed his jaw, his designer shirt was wrinkled, and his eyes were bloodshot from exhaustion and tears. He moved from room to room like a caged animal, fielding calls from law enforcement, coordinating with private investigators, and desperately following every lead. "Any word from the kidnapper?" Detective Coleman asked, reviewing the latest reports. "Nothing," Harrison replied, his voice hoarse. "They called twice demanding ransom, but I won't pay a cent until I have proof Emma is alive and unharmed." Marcus appeared in the doorway, mud splattered on his expensive suit from another day of field searches. "Harrison, we've covered the entire downtown district. My team is expanding the search to the industrial zone tomorrow." Harrison gripped his friend's shoulder gratefully. "Thank you, Marcus. I don't know what I'd do without you leading the ground operations." "She's like a niece to me," Marcus replied, his eyes filled with apparent emotion. "I won't rest until we bring her home." Meanwhile, across the city in the shadows beneath Morrison Bridge, 12-year-old Tyler Williams huddled in his makeshift cardboard shelter. The bridge had been his home for 2 years, ever since his mother's overdose left him with no family and no options. He'd learned to survive on the streets, finding food in dumpsters, avoiding dangerous adults, and staying invisible. But tonight, something was different. For the past 3 days, Tyler had noticed unusual activity around the abandoned Preston building just 2 blocks from his bridge. Black cars came and went at odd hours, and twice he'd seen men in suits carrying bags into the building. Tyler's survival instincts were sharp. He'd learned to recognize when adults were up to no good, and everything about the Preston building screamed danger. As rain began to fall again, Tyler pulled his thin jacket tighter and peered through the darkness at the building. A light flickered, in a basement window, a window he'd never seen lit before. And then he heard it, carried on the wind, a sound that made his blood run cold. Someone was crying. A child was crying. Tyler's bare feet made no sound as he crept through the shadows, toward the Preston building. 2 years of street life had taught him to move like a ghost, invisible, silent, and always ready to run. The crying grew louder as he approached the basement window. It was definitely a child, and the sound broke something inside Tyler's hardened, 12-year-old heart. He'd heard too many kids cry on the streets, usually from hunger, cold, or worse. Pressing his face against the grimy glass, Tyler peered into the dim basement. What he saw made his stomach clench with rage. A small girl sat huddled in the corner, her hands tied behind her back, tears streaming down her dirty face. She wore an expensive school uniform, now torn and stained. "Hey," Tyler whispered through the window. The girl's head turned toward his voice, her unseeing eyes wide with fear. "Don't be scared," he said softly. "I'm going to help you." Tyler had been watching the building long enough to know the pattern. Every evening at sunset, the two men left for about an hour, probably to get food. He waited in the shadows, his heart pounding until he saw them drive away. The basement door was locked, but Tyler had learned to pick simple locks from other street kids. His fingers worked quickly in the darkness until he heard the satisfying click. It's okay," he whispered as he entered the basement. "I'm Tyler. I'm here to help you." The girl, she couldn't be more than 8 or 9, shrank back against the wall. "Please don't hurt me," she whimpered. "Never," Tyler promised, carefully approaching her. "I'm going to untie you, okay? Then we're getting out of here." As he worked on the ropes, Tyler noticed something odd. The girl's eyes didn't track his movements, they stared straight ahead. "Can you see me?" he asked gently. "No," she whispered. "I'm blind. I can't see anything." Tyler's heart ached for her. Being trapped and scared was terrible enough, but being unable to see your surroundings made it infinitely worse. "What's your name?" he asked, freeing her hands. "Emma," she replied, rubbing her wrists where the ropes had chafed. "Okay, Emma. I know a safe place where those bad men can't find you. Can you walk?" Emma nodded, reaching out hesitantly. Tyler took her small hand in his, feeling how cold and fragile she was. "I'm going to take care of you," he promised. "Trust me." As they slipped out into the night, Tyler felt something he'd never experienced before, the fierce need to protect someone smaller and more vulnerable than himself. Under the Morrison Bridge, Tyler's cardboard shelter had never housed anyone but himself. Tonight was different. He carefully helped Emma settle onto his only blanket, then surrounded her with pieces of cardboard to block the cold wind that swept off the river. "I'm sorry it's not very warm," Tyler said, taking off his jacket and draping it over her small shoulders. "But it's safe here. Nobody ever comes down here at night." Emma pulled the jacket closer, inhaling the scent of detergent. Tyler had washed it just 2 days ago in the river. Despite living on the streets, he maintained what cleanliness he could. "Are you hungry?" Tyler asked, retrieving a paper bag from his hiding spot behind a concrete pillar. Inside were 2 sandwiches he'd bought with money earned from returning shopping carts at the grocery store. "Very hungry," Emma admitted quietly. "Those men only gave me water." Tyler unwrapped both sandwiches and handed Emma the larger one. "Peanut butter and jelly. It's not fancy, but it's good." As Emma ate, Tyler studied her in the dim light filtering down from the bridge above. Her clothes, though dirty now, were expensive. Her shoes were leather. Her hair was professionally cut. This wasn't a street kid like him. This was someone important. Someone loved. "Emma," Tyler said gently. "Where do you live? Where's your family?" "With my daddy," she replied, a tear rolling down her cheek. "He's probably so scared. I was going to school and then—" She shuddered. Tyler moved closer, his protective instincts kicking in. Hey, it's okay. You're safe now. Why are you helping? Me? Emma asked, turning her face toward his voice. You don't even know me. Tyler was quiet for a moment. How could he explain that seeing her tied up in that basement had awakened something in him he'd buried after years of looking out only for himself? Because nobody helped me when I needed it, he finally said. And because you're just a kid. Kids should be protected. Emma's small hand reached out, finding Tyler's arm. You're just a kid, too. I stopped being a kid when I was 10, Tyler replied, but his voice was gentler than usual. What happened when you were 10? My mom died. Had nobody else. Emma's grip on his arm tightened. I'm sorry. They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the distant hum of traffic above. Tyler had spent countless nights alone under this bridge, but tonight felt different. For the first time in 2 years, he wasn't completely alone. Tyler? Emma's voice was sleepy. Yeah? Thank you for saving me. You're good people. Tyler smiled, the first genuine smile he'd managed in months. Get some sleep, Emma. Tomorrow I'll figure out how to get you home. The next morning, Tyler left Emma sleeping safely under the bridge while he ventured out to find food and gather information. The city was plastered with missing person posters, and Tyler's blood ran cold when he saw the face staring back at him from every telephone, pole and storefront window. Missing. Emma Blackwell, age 8. $10 million reward. Tyler stared at the poster in shock. Emma Blackwell, daughter of Harrison Blackwell, the richest man in the city. Tyler had seen him on TV and in newspapers, always in expensive suits, always surrounded by important people. His first instinct was relief. At least now he knew where Emma belonged. But as he read the poster more carefully, something nagged at him. The phone number for tips led to someone named Marcus Thornfield, not Emma's father directly. Tyler spent the morning observing the Blackwell mansion from a distance, watching the constant flow of police cars and FBI vehicles. He needed to understand the situation before making his move. It was late afternoon when Tyler's world shifted again. He was walking past an alley near the Preston building when he heard familiar voices, the same men who had been guarding Emma. Boss says we gotta move. Fast, one voice growled. The heat's getting too intense. What about the girl? The second man asked. Marcus wants her eliminated. Says she might recognize him if she ever gets back to Daddy. Kid's blind, but she ain't deaf. She heard his voice that first day. Tyler pressed himself against the brick wall, his heart hammering. Marcus, the same name from the reward poster, thought Marcus was supposed to be helping find her. The first man laughed darkly. Guy's playing both sides like a pro. Acts all concerned in front of Blackwell while ordering us to clean up loose ends. Smart plan, really. Frame it as a kidnapping. Gone wrong. Console the grieving father, then step into his position at the company when Blackwell falls apart. Tyler's hands clenched into fists. This Marcus person wasn't just involved in Emma's kidnapping, he was pretending to help her father, while planning to kill her. When do we do it? Tonight. Marcus said make it look like she tried to escape and got hurt, then dump the body where it'll be found in a few days. Tyler didn't wait to hear more. He ran back to the bridge, his mind racing. Emma was still in immediate danger, even though she was temporarily safe with him. But how could he get her back to her father without Marcus finding out? How could he expose the truth when he was just a 12-year-old street kid that nobody would believe? Tyler. Emma's voice was worried as he slid down the embankment. You sound scared. What's wrong? Tyler knelt beside her, taking her hands gently. Emma, I need to ask you something important. The day you were taken, do you remember hearing any voices of people you might know? Emma's face scrunched in concentration. There was one voice. It sounded familiar, like someone Daddy knows. But I was so scared I can't remember clearly. Tyler's jaw tightened. Those men were right. Emma had heard Marcus's voice. She was the only witness who could connect him to the crime, which made her a liability he couldn't afford to leave alive. Emma, Tyler said firmly, I'm going to protect you. but we need to be very careful about who we trust. Tyler spent the rest of the day formulating a plan. He couldn't simply walk up to the Blackwell mansion and hand over Emma, not when Marcus might be there, ready to silence the only witness to his crime. But Emma needed to get back to her father soon. She was growing weaker from the stress and inadequate food. "Emma," Tyler said gently as evening approached, "I'm going to take you somewhere safe tomorrow where you can see your daddy, but from a distance. I need to make sure it's completely safe before I bring you home." "Why wouldn't it be safe?" Emma asked, her small hand finding Tyler's arm. "Daddy would never let anyone hurt me." Tyler struggled with how much to tell her. She was only 8 and she'd already been through so much trauma. "Some of the people who took you are still out there. I want to be extra careful." The next morning, Tyler helped Emma clean up as best they could with river water and the spare clothes he'd managed to find. He'd seen announcements for a press conference at City Hall where Harrison Blackwell would make another public plea for information about his daughter. Tyler positioned them across the street from City Hall, hidden behind a hot dog vendor's cart, where Emma could hear clearly, but they remained invisible in the crowd. At exactly 10 a.m., Harrison Blackwell emerged from a black SUV. Even from a distance, Tyler could see the devastation etched on the man's face. His expensive suit hung loose on his frame, and his usually perfect appearance was disheveled from days of anguish. "Emma," Tyler whispered, "your daddy's about to speak." The moment Harrison's voice carried across the square through the microphone, Emma began to cry. "That's him. That's my daddy." Harrison's voice broke as he spoke. "Emma, if you can hear this, somehow Daddy loves you. We're going to find you and bring you home to whoever has my little girl. Please, she's just an innocent child. She needs her medication. She needs to be home. I'll give you anything you want." Tyler watched Emma's face crumble with longing and relief. But his attention was drawn to the man standing beside Harrison, a tall, well-dressed man with graying hair who kept a supportive hand on Harrison's shoulder. That had to be Marcus Thornfield. Tyler studied Marcus carefully, using the survival instincts that had kept him alive on the streets. While Harrison was genuinely distraught, his grief raw and visible, Marcus's expression seemed calculated. His concern appeared practiced, like an actor hitting his marks. "My business partner, Marcus Thornfield, has been coordinating search efforts around the clock," Harrison continued. "We won't stop until Emma comes home." Marcus stepped forward to the microphone. "We have teams covering every inch of this city. Emma, if you're out there, we're coming for you." Something cold settled in Tyler's stomach. The way Marcus said, "We're coming for you," didn't sound like a rescue promise, it sounded like a threat. After the press conference, Tyler watched Marcus interact with law enforcement and volunteers. The man was smooth, authoritative, helpful, but Tyler noticed how his eyes constantly scanned the crowd as if looking for something. Or someone. "Tyler," Emma whispered, tugging on his sleeve. "Can we go to Daddy now, please?" Tyler's heart ached seeing her hope. "Soon, Emma, I promise. But I need to make sure of something first." "Make sure of what?" Tyler looked back at Marcus, who was now giving orders to search teams with the authority of someone in complete control. "I need to make sure the person who hurt you can't hurt you again." Tyler knew he had one advantage over adults: invisibility. Street kids learned early how to blend into the background, how to observe without being noticed. Over the next 2 days, he made Emma as comfortable as possible under the bridge while he conducted his own investigation. Marcus Thornfield kept a predictable schedule. Every morning at 8 a.m., he left his penthouse apartment in the financial district. Tyler followed him from a safe distance, using his knowledge of the city's alleyways and shortcuts to stay hidden. On the second day of surveillance, Tyler's patience paid off. Instead of going to the Blackwell Industries building, Marcus drove to a rundown warehouse in the industrial district, the same area where Tyler had originally found Emma. Tyler watched from behind a dumpster as Marcus met with 3 men, including the 2 he'd overheard planning Emma's murder. Money changed hands and Tyler strained to hear their conversation. "The search is getting too close to our operation," Marcus said, his voice completely different from the caring tone he used around Harrison. "We need to wrap this up tonight." "What about the girl?" one of the men asked. Tyler's blood ran cold as Marcus replied, "She's a liability. She heard my voice during the initial grab. Even though she's blind, she could identify me. Make it look like an accident. A fall, maybe. Something tragic that will devastate Blackwell completely." "And then?" Marcus smiled, a cold expression that never appeared during his public appearances. "Then I'll be there to help poor Harrison through his grief. I'll gradually take over more responsibilities at the company. Within 6 months, I'll control everything." Tyler had heard enough. He carefully backed away from the warehouse, his mind racing. Not only was Marcus planning to kill Emma, but he was orchestrating an elaborate scheme to steal her father's entire empire. The worst part was how perfectly it was working. Harrison trusted Marcus completely, relying on him to coordinate the search efforts. Marcus had positioned himself as the hero while secretly being the villain. That afternoon, Tyler returned to Emma with a heavy heart. She was weaker than before, and he could see she was fighting off a cold from sleeping rough. "Tyler," she said softly as he slid down the embankment, "I had a dream about Daddy last night. He was calling for me, but I couldn't find him." Tyler knelt beside her, his protective instincts stronger than ever. "Emma, I need to get you home tomorrow, but I have to ask you to be very brave, okay?" "I'm ready," she said with surprising strength. "I trust you." Tyler spent the evening planning carefully. He couldn't just call the police. Marcus had too. Much influence. And Tyler was just a street kid with no credibility. He needed to get Emma safely to her father while simultaneously exposing Marcus in a way that couldn't be ignored or covered up. As Emma slept fitfully beside him, Tyler made his decision. Tomorrow he would take Emma directly to the Blackwell mansion when he was certain Marcus wasn't there. But he would also need to time it perfectly so that Marcus would be caught in his lies. "Don't worry, Emma," Tyler whispered into the darkness. "Tomorrow you're going home, and the person who hurt you is going to pay for what he did." Tyler had been watching the Blackwell mansion for 3 hours from across the street, hidden behind a large oak tree. He'd memorized the patterns, the guards' rotations, the delivery schedules, and most importantly, Marcus's comings and goings. At 2 p.m., Marcus left in his black Mercedes, heading toward downtown for what Tyler had overheard him tell Harrison was a meeting with federal investigators. Tyler knew it was his window of opportunity. "Emma," Tyler said gently, helping her to her feet. "It's time to go home." Emma had grown weaker over the past few days, but determination strengthened her voice. "I'm ready, Tyler. Thank you for taking care of me." Tyler had done his best to clean them both up. He'd used precious coins to buy soap and had washed their clothes in the river. Emma's school uniform was still stained and torn, but it was recognizable. Tyler's own clothes, jeans with holes in the knees and a faded t-shirt, marked him clearly as what he was, a street kid. Hand in hand, they approached the mansion's imposing iron gates. The security guard, a large man in a crisp uniform, immediately stepped forward with a stern expression. "Hey, kids, you can't be here. This is private property." "Please, sir," Tyler said, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "I have Emma Blackwell. I found her and I'm bringing her home." The guard's expression shifted to suspicion. "Right, kid. And I'm the president. Look, I know there's a reward, but we've had dozens of people trying to scam Daddy." Emma suddenly screamed, her voice carrying across the estate grounds. "Daddy, I'm here." The sound was so piercing, so desperate, that it cut through everything else. Within seconds, the mansion's front door burst open and Harrison Blackwell came running, his face wild with hope and disbelief. "Emma? Emma!" Harrison's voice cracked as he sprinted across the lawn, his expensive suit forgotten, his composure completely abandoned. The security guard stepped aside, his mouth falling open as he realized this wasn't a scam. Emma broke free from Tyler's hand and ran toward her father's voice. Stumbling slightly on the unfamiliar terrain, Harrison caught her in his arms, lifting her off the ground and spinning her around, both of them sobbing. My baby, my beautiful baby," Harrison wept, holding Emma so tightly it was as if he was trying to merge their hearts. I thought I'd lost you forever. Daddy, I knew you'd find me, Emma cried, her small arms wrapped around his neck. I knew you wouldn't give up. For several minutes, Tyler stood quietly to the side, watching the reunion with a mixture of joy and something like envy. He'd never experienced that kind of love, that desperate relief, that complete devotion. Finally, Harrison looked up at Tyler through his tears. The man who commanded boardrooms and controlled billions looked at the 12-year-old street kid with an expression of pure gratitude. You brought her back to me, Harrison said, his voice thick with emotion. How can I ever repay you? The reward money, anything you want. Name it. Tyler shifted uncomfortably, suddenly aware of how out of place he looked in this world of marble and luxury. I don't want the reward money, sir. Harrison blinked in surprise. Then what? What can I give you? Tyler looked down at his worn sneakers, then back up at Harrison with complete honesty. Just a plate of food, sir. I haven't eaten much lately. Harrison's chef had prepared a feast that Tyler could never have imagined. The dining room table groaned under the weight of roasted chicken, fresh bread, vegetables, and desserts that looked like works of art. Tyler ate slowly, savoring every bite while Emma sat beside him, her hand occasionally touching his arm to reassure herself he was still there. Tyler, Harrison said, watching the boy with growing amazement. Emma told me you've been taking care of her for days. You kept her safe, fed her, protected her. You're a hero. Tyler shook his head, uncomfortable with the praise. I just did what anyone would do. No, Harrison said firmly. Most people would have called the police immediately and collected the reward. You put her safety first, even when it meant risk for yourself. Emma turned toward Tyler's voice. Daddy, Tyler saved me from very bad men. They were going to hurt me, but Tyler was brave and got me out. Harrison's expression darkened. What men? The FBI said they hadn't found any trace of your captors. Before Tyler could answer, the dining room door burst open. Marcus Thornfield strode in, his face flushed with apparent relief and joy. Harrison, I just heard the news from security. Emma's back. Marcus moved toward Emma with open arms. Thank God you're safe, sweetheart. Tyler's fork clattered to his plate. Every muscle in his body tensed as he stared at Marcus, the same man he'd watched planning Emma's murder just hours earlier. Emma shrank back against Tyler instinctively. Something in Marcus's voice triggered a memory, a flash of recognition, that made her grip Tyler's sleeve tightly. And you must be the young man who found her, Marcus said, turning to Tyler with a practiced smile. The whole city owes you a debt of gratitude. Tyler stood up slowly, his young face set with determination. Harrison noticed the change immediately. The easygoing boy from moments before had transformed into someone older, harder. Emma, Tyler said quietly, never taking his eyes off Marcus. Is this the voice you heard? The familiar one from when you were taken? Emma's breath caught. Her unseeing eyes widened as the memory came flooding back. Yes, she whispered. That's the voice. He was there when they grabbed me. The dining room fell into shocked silence. Marcus's smile faltered for just a fraction of a second before he forced out a laugh. That's ridiculous. The poor child is confused, traumatized. Harrison, surely you don't believe it was him. Tyler's voice rang out with absolute certainty. He's the one who ordered your daughter's kidnapping, Mr. Blackwell. I saw him meeting with the men who held Emma. I heard him planning to kill her. Harrison stared at his business partner and best friend, the man he'd trusted with his life, his business, and his daughter's rescue. Marcus, this is insane. Tell me this isn't true. Marcus's composure cracked slightly. Harrison, think about this logically. A street kid and a traumatized child making accusations? I've been coordinating the search efforts. I've been by your side every moment. Because you wanted to control the investigation, Tyler shot back. You planned the whole thing to steal Mr. Blackwell's company. You said when Emma died he'd fall apart and you'd take over everything. The words hung in the air like a sword. Harrison's face went white. then red with rage as he looked between Tyler's determined expression and Marcus's increasingly panicked one. "Marcus," Harrison said, his voice deadly quiet. "Look me in the eye and tell me you had nothing to do with taking my daughter." Marcus Thornfield stared into Harrison Blackwell's eyes that had trusted him completely for 15 years, eyes that now burned with a father's fury and a friend's betrayal. The silence stretched between them like a chasm. "Harrison," Marcus began, his voice less steady than before, "you're letting a street kid and a confused child destroy our friendship. I've been your partner, your brother." "Then prove it," Harrison interrupted, stepping closer. "Look me in the eye and swear on everything you hold sacred that you had no part in Emma's disappearance." Tyler watched Marcus's face carefully. He'd learned to read adults on the streets to spot the liars and predators. Right now, he could see Marcus calculating, weighing his options, looking for an escape route. Marcus started, then stopped. His perfectly groomed appearance was beginning to crack. Sweat beaded on his forehead. His hands trembled slightly. Emma suddenly spoke, her voice small but clear. "He told them to make me disappear forever. I remember now. He said I was a problem that needed to be solved." "That's enough," Marcus exploded, his careful mask finally slipping completely. "You want the truth, Harrison? Fine. Yes, I planned it. Yes, I took your precious daughter." Harrison staggered backward as if physically struck. "Why? Marcus, why would you? We're family." "Family?" Marcus laughed bitterly, years of resentment pouring out. "You mean the way you treated me like your little brother who could never quite measure up? Always Harrison's brilliant ideas, Harrison's company, Harrison's success while I did the real work in the shadows." Tyler moved protectively closer to Emma, who was trembling at the anger in Marcus's voice. "The board was ready to promote me to equal partner," Marcus continued, his composure completely shattered. "But you blocked it, didn't you? Said I wasn't ready for that level of responsibility after 15 years. So you decided to murder my daughter?" Harrison's voice was deadly quiet, more terrifying than any shout. "The plan was perfect," Marcus said, his voice taking on a manic edge. "Emma disappears, you fall apart with grief, the board loses confidence in your leadership. I step in as interim CEO, then permanent. Nobody gets hurt permanently, well, except Emma, but that was unfortunately necessary." Harrison's hands clenched into fists. "You were going to kill an 8-year-old child for a company?" "For my company," Marcus screamed. "I built that empire as much as you did. I deserved—" His words were cut off as Harrison grabbed him by the collar, his billionaire composure replaced by primal fury. "You lying, murdering—" "Daddy, no!" Emma cried out, sensing the violence in the room. Tyler quickly pulled out his phone, a cheap device he'd bought for emergencies. "I recorded everything," he announced, causing both men to freeze. "The meetings at the warehouse, the plans to kill Emma, all of it. I've got evidence." Marcus's face went ashen. "You little—" "Harrison," a new voice interrupted. Detective Coleman stood in the doorway with 2 uniformed officers, having been called by the mansion security when they heard the shouting. "Is everything all right here?" Harrison released Marcus but didn't step back. "Detective, I'd like to report a kidnapping conspiracy. Marcus Thornfield orchestrated my daughter's abduction." "That's a serious accusation, Mr. Blackwell." Tyler stepped forward. "I have recordings of him planning to murder Emma, and Emma can identify his voice from the kidnapping." Detective Coleman looked at Marcus, who was now slumped against the wall, his expensive suit wrinkled, his face hollow. "Sir, I'm going to need you to come with us for questioning." As the handcuffs clicked around Marcus's wrists, he looked back at Harrison one last time. "You'll regret this, Harrison. Without me, your empire will crumble." Harrison put his arms around Emma and Tyler, pulling them both close. "My empire was never worth my daughter's life, and thanks to Tyler's courage, I still have what matters most." The police station's fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows as Tyler finished giving his statement to Detective Coleman. Marcus had been formally charged with kidnapping, conspiracy, and attempted murder. The recordings on Tyler's phone, combined, with Emma's testimony and physical evidence from the warehouse, had sealed the case. Harrison sat beside Tyler throughout the entire process, his hand resting supportively on the boy's shoulder. Emma refused to leave Tyler's side, her small fingers intertwined with his. "You're incredibly brave, Tyler," Detective Coleman said as she closed her notebook. "Your quick thinking and courage saved Emma's life." As they left the station, Harrison was quiet, his mind clearly processing everything that had happened. Finally, as they reached his car, he turned to Tyler. "Where do you live, son? I'll have my driver take you home." Tyler shifted uncomfortably. "I don't really have a home, sir. I live under Morrison Bridge." Harrison's expression shifted to one of shock, then deep sadness. "You're homeless. How long have you been living on the streets?" "About 2 years since my mom died." Harrison knelt down to Tyler's eye level, the same way he did when talking to Emma about important things. "Tyler, you saved my daughter's life. You showed more honor and courage than grown men I've known for decades. I want to offer you something, but I need you to think carefully before you answer." Tyler waited, his street-smart instincts telling him this was important. "I'd like you to come live with us permanently. Not as a guest, not temporarily, as family. Emma and I would be honored to have you as part of our lives." Tyler's eyes widened. He'd dreamed of having a real family, but the offer seemed too good to be true. "Sir, I don't think I'd fit in your world. I'm just a street kid. I don't know how to act around rich people." Emma squeezed Tyler's hand. "Tyler, you fit with us. You're good and brave and kind, that's all that matters." Harrison smiled at his daughter's wisdom. "Emma's right. We don't care about your background, Tyler. We care about your heart, and your heart is golden." Tyler felt tears threatening, the first tears he'd allowed himself in 2 years. "But what if I mess up? What if I break something expensive or say the wrong thing?" "Then we'll teach you," Harrison said simply. "That's what families do. They help each other learn and grow. Will you consider it?" Tyler looked between Harrison and Emma, this man who had every reason to be celebrating his daughter's return, yet was thinking about a homeless boy's future, and this brave girl who had been through trauma but still wanted to share her father with him. "Yes, sir," Tyler whispered. "I'd like that very much." Harrison's smile was radiant. "Then let's go home. Mrs. Patterson, our housekeeper, is probably preparing enough food to feed an army. And tomorrow, we'll get you enrolled in school, buy you some clothes, and start making you officially part of the Blackwell family." As the limousine pulled through the mansion's gates, Tyler pressed his face to the window in wonder. This morning, he'd been a homeless boy with nothing but the clothes on his back. Tonight he was going to sleep in a real bed, in a real home with people who actually wanted him there. "Tyler," Emma said softly. "Yeah? Thank you for being my hero. Now let me be yours." The courthouse steps were lined with reporters and photographers as Harrison, Emma, and Tyler arrived for Marcus Thornfield's trial. 3 weeks had passed since that dramatic evening in the Blackwell mansion, and Tyler had slowly begun adjusting to his new life. Living in the mansion felt surreal. Tyler had his own room, larger than any space he'd ever inhabited, with a bed so comfortable he sometimes lay awake just appreciating its softness. Mrs. Patterson, the housekeeper, had become like a grandmother, making sure he ate properly and teaching him table manners with infinite patience. But today, Tyler had to face the hardest part of his new reality, testifying against Marcus in open court. "Are you ready for this?" Harrison asked, straightening Tyler's new suit, the first formal clothing Tyler had ever owned. "I think so," Tyler replied, though his hands were trembling slightly. "What if he tries to make me look bad? What if people don't believe me?" Emma reached for Tyler's hand. "We believe you. That's all that matters." Inside the courtroom, Marcus sat at the defendant's table, his expensive legal team surrounding him. When Tyler entered, Marcus's eyes fixed on him with cold hatred. The man who had once seemed so composed and successful now looked haggard, his carefully constructed image crumbling under the weight of his crimes. When Tyler was called to testify, Harrison squeezed his shoulder encouragingly. Just tell the truth, son. That's all you need to do. Tyler walked to the witness stand, his heart pounding. The prosecutor, Ms. Rodriguez, smiled kindly at him. Tyler, can you tell the court what you witnessed at the warehouse on October 15th? Tyler's voice started quietly but grew stronger as he recounted everything. The conversations he'd overheard, Marcus's cold instructions to kill Emma, the callous way he'd discussed stealing Harrison's company. Marcus's defense attorney tried to discredit Tyler during cross-examination. Isn't it true, Tyler, that you're a homeless child with a history of theft and trespassing? Why should this court believe the word of a street criminal? Tyler felt his face burn with shame, but then he looked at Harrison and Emma in the gallery. Their faces were filled with love and support, not judgment. Yes, sir. I lived on the streets, Tyler said clearly. And yes, I've stolen food when I was starving, but I've never lied about something this important. I recorded what I heard because I knew a little girl's life was in danger. And convenient that you now live in luxury with the very family you claim to have helped, the attorney continued snidely. Objection, Ms. Rodriguez called out, but Tyler was already answering. Mr. Blackwell didn't offer me a home until after Emma was safe and Marcus was arrested. I didn't help Emma to get something for myself. I helped her because it was right. The courtroom was silent. Even the defense attorney seemed taken aback by Tyler's honest dignity. When the recordings were played for the jury, Marcus's voice filled the courtroom with cold calculation as he planned Emma's murder. Several jurors looked disgusted. The verdict came quickly. Guilty on all charges. Marcus Thornfield was sentenced to life in prison without possibility of parole. As the judge's gavel fell, Harrison put his arms around Tyler and Emma. It's over, he whispered. He can't hurt anyone anymore. Outside the courthouse, Harrison knelt before Tyler one more time. Tyler, you've shown incredible courage today. You've helped ensure that a dangerous man will never hurt another child. I'm proud to call you my son. Son? Tyler's voice cracked with emotion. If you'll have me as your father, what do you say we make this official? Tyler nodded, tears flowing, freely for the second time in his life. Yes, sir, I'd be honored to be your son. The family court judge's chambers felt warm and intimate. Nothing like the sterile courtroom where Marcus had been sentenced weeks earlier. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, casting everything in a golden glow as Harrison, Emma, and Tyler sat together before Judge Patricia Hawkins. This is one of my favorite parts of being a judge, Judge Hawkins said with a genuine smile. Today we're not here to punish wrongdoing, but to celebrate love and family. Tyler wore his best suit, navy, blue with a silver tie that Emma had helped him pick out. His hands were folded in his lap, but Harrison could see them trembling slightly with nervous excitement. Tyler Williams, the judge continued, do you understand that by signing these papers, you will legally become Tyler Blackwell? Your name, your identity, your family, everything changes today. Yes, ma'am, Tyler replied, his voice steady despite his emotions. I understand. And Harrison Blackwell, do you take Tyler as your son with all the responsibilities and privileges that entails? To provide for him, guide him, and love him as your own? Harrison's voice was thick with emotion. I do, Your Honor. It would be my greatest honor. Emma sat between them, her hands clasped tightly in excitement. And Tyler will be my real brother now? Your legal brother, Judge Hawkins confirmed with a chuckle. Though it sounds like he's been your real brother for quite some time. As Tyler signed his name on the adoption papers, carefully in the neat handwriting he'd been practicing with Mrs. Patterson, his hand paused for a moment. He looked up at Harrison. Sir, I just want you to know. I promise I'll make you proud. I'll work hard in school, I'll help take care of Emma, and I'll never do anything to shame the Blackwell name. Harrison's eyes filled with tears. Tyler, you've already made me prouder than I ever thought possible. You saved my daughter's life with nothing but courage and kindness. You're exactly the kind of person I hope to become. When all the papers were signed and witnessed, Judge Hawkins stood and extended her hand to Tyler. Congratulations, Tyler Blackwell. Welcome to your new family. Tyler stood and shook her hand, then turned to Harrison. For a moment, they looked at each other, the billionaire businessman and the former street kid, and then Harrison pulled him into a fierce hug. "Welcome home, son," Harrison whispered. Emma launched herself at both of them, wrapping her arms around Tyler's waist. "Now you're stuck with us forever," she declared. Outside the courthouse, Mrs. Patterson waited with the limousine, a small celebration cake visible through the window. She'd insisted on marking this special day properly. "How does it feel?" Harrison asked as they walked down the courthouse steps. Tyler paused, considering the question seriously. "Different. Good different. Like I finally belong somewhere." He looked up at Harrison with a mixture of gratitude and determination. "I won't let you down, Mr. Blackwell. I mean, Dad." The word hung in the air between them, the first time Tyler had used it. Harrison's face lit up with joy. "And I won't let you down either, Tyler. That's what families do. We support each other, no matter what." As they climbed into the limousine, Emma bounced excitedly in her seat. "Can we have a party? Please? Tyler's never had a real birthday party, and now he has a new birthday today." Harrison laughed, the sound lighter than it had been in months. "Absolutely. Tyler Blackwell deserves a proper celebration." Tyler leaned back in the leather seat, watching his new family with wonder. 6 months ago, he'd been a nameless boy sleeping under a bridge. Now he was Tyler Blackwell, with a father who loved him and a sister who looked up to him. 6 months had passed since the adoption, and the Blackwell mansion had truly become a home. Tyler's transformation was remarkable, not just in appearance, though his proper clothes and healthy complexion showed the benefits of good nutrition and care, but in confidence and purpose. At Riverside Academy, the same school Emma attended, Tyler had initially struggled with the academic gap between street education and private school curriculum, but his determination was fierce. He spent hours each evening with tutors Harrison had hired, catching up on years of missed schooling. "Tyler scored highest in his class on the history exam," Emma announced proudly at dinner one evening, waving the test paper she'd helped Mrs. Patterson read to her. "He got 98%, Harrison beamed with pride. "That's fantastic, son. I'm incredibly proud of your hard work." Tyler still felt a thrill every time Harrison called him son. It never got old. But Tyler's greatest joy came from his relationship with Emma. He'd appointed himself her unofficial guardian, walking her to classes, helping with homework, and ensuring she never felt limited by her blindness. Under Tyler's encouragement, Emma had begun learning to navigate more independently, her confidence growing daily. "Tyler taught me to count steps between classrooms," Emma told her mobility instructor. "Now I know exactly how to get everywhere by myself." What impressed Harrison most was how Tyler had maintained his compassionate heart despite his new circumstances. Every Saturday, Tyler insisted on volunteering at the homeless shelter downtown, often bringing Emma along to help serve meals. "These are my friends," Tyler would explain to Emma as he introduced her to various street kids who came for food. "They're just like I was. They need someone to care about them." Tyler had convinced Harrison to establish a scholarship fund for homeless children, providing education and support to kids aging out of the foster system. It was Tyler's idea to call it the Second Chances Foundation. "Every kid deserves what you gave me," Tyler told Harrison as they reviewed the foundation's first-year report, "a chance to prove they're more than their circumstances." Harrison marveled at his son's wisdom. At 13, Tyler possessed an emotional intelligence that many adults never developed. One evening, as Harrison tucked Emma into bed, a ritual that now included Tyler helping to choose bedtime stories, Emma made an observation that stopped both men in their tracks. "Daddy, did you know that Tyler saved us twice?" "What do you mean, sweetheart?" Harrison asked. "He saved me from the bad men, but he also saved you from being sad and lonely. Before Tyler came, you worked all the time and didn't smile much. Now you smile every day." Harrison looked at Tyler, who was carefully arranging Emma's stuffed animals around her bed. It was true. Before Tyler and Emma's kidnapping had shaken his priorities, Harrison had been successful but empty. Now their family dinners, homework help sessions, and weekend adventures had given his life real meaning. "She's right," Harrison said softly. "Tyler, you didn't just save Emma's life. You saved our family." Tyler looked up from his task, his face serious. "You saved me too, Dad. All of us. We saved each other." Later that night, Harrison found Tyler in his room working on an essay for English class titled My Hero. "Who are you writing about?" Harrison asked, settling into the reading chair they'd placed by Tyler's desk. "You," Tyler replied simply. "The teacher said to write about someone who changed my life through their actions, not just their words." Harrison read over Tyler's shoulder. "My hero didn't rescue me with superhuman strength or magical powers. He rescued me by seeing potential in a homeless boy when everyone else saw only problems. He taught me that family isn't about blood. It's about choosing to love someone unconditionally, even when they can't offer you anything in return." Harrison's throat tightened with emotion. "Tyler, that's beautiful." "It's true," Tyler said, turning to face his father. "Dad, I need you to know something. Even if I become successful someday, even if I have my own company or make lots of money, the most important thing I'll ever be is your son." Harrison pulled Tyler into a hug, overwhelmed by gratitude for the extraordinary young man his son was becoming. 3 years had passed since that rainy morning when Harrison Blackwell first heard the devastating news that his daughter was missing. Today, the grand ballroom of the Metropolitan Hotel was filled with hundreds of people celebrating the third annual Second Chances Foundation Gala, an event that had become New York's most prestigious charity fundraiser. Tyler Blackwell, now 16, stood at the podium with the confidence of someone who had found his purpose. Dressed in a perfectly tailored tuxedo, he bore little resemblance to the frightened street kid who had once lived under Morrison Bridge. But his eyes still held the same compassion and determination that had driven him to save Emma. 3 years ago, Tyler began, his voice carrying clearly through the ballroom, "I was a homeless boy who thought the world had forgotten about kids like me. Tonight I stand before you as proof that love can transform any life, no matter how broken it seems." In the front row, Harrison watched his son with immense pride. Emma, now 11 and radiant in her blue dress, sat beside him, her guide dog Bella resting at her feet. Emma had grown into a confident young woman whose blindness had become just one aspect of her remarkable personality, not a limitation. The Second Chances Foundation has provided homes, education, and hope to over 500 children in the past 3 years. Tyler continued. "But tonight, I want to tell you about the most important rescue that ever happened. The day my dad, Harrison Blackwell, chose to see potential instead of problems." Harrison felt tears prick his eyes as Tyler recounted their story. Not the sanitized version that appeared in newspapers, but the real story of how broken people had found each other and created something beautiful. "My sister Emma taught me that courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about doing what's right even when you're terrified. My dad taught me that family isn't about blood or genetics. It's about choosing to love someone unconditionally." The audience erupted in applause as Tyler introduced a video showcasing the foundation's impact. On the screen, dozens of former homeless children, now thriving in school, pursuing dreams, building futures, shared their stories of transformation. After the presentation, Tyler rejoined his family at their table. Emma immediately grabbed his hand. "You were perfect," she whispered. "I could hear people crying during your speech." "Good tears, I hope," Tyler replied, squeezing her fingers gently. Harrison leaned over. "Son, I've never been more proud of anyone in my life. You've taken your pain and turned it into purpose." The evening continued with dancing and celebration, but for Tyler, the most meaningful moment came when a young girl approached their table. She was about 8 years old, wearing a dress that was clearly borrowed, her hair neatly braided, but her shoes worn. "Excuse me," she said shyly. "Are you Tyler Blackwell, the boy who used to live on the streets?" Tyler knelt down to her level, the same way Harrison had once knelt for him. "Yes, I am," What's your name? Sophia. I live in the group home now, but Miss Martinez says maybe I could get a scholarship to go to real school like you did. Tyler's heart swelled. Sophia, do you know what I see when I look at you? She shook her head. I see someone incredibly brave. Someone smart and strong who deserves every opportunity in the world. And you know what? I'm going to make sure you get those opportunities. Later that night, back at the mansion, the family sat in the living room where it had all begun. Emma was curled up with Bella, while Tyler and Harrison looked through photo albums from the past 3 years. Graduations, holidays, family vacations, and quiet moments at home. Dad, Tyler said softly, can I ask you something? Anything. Son, do you ever regret it? Taking in a street kid who didn't know how to use the right fork or say the right things? Harrison set down the photo album and looked at Tyler seriously. Tyler, listen to me carefully. The day you brought Emma home was the day my real life began. Before that, I was successful but empty. I had money but no purpose. You and Emma gave me something no amount of wealth could buy, a reason to be better. Emma looked up from where she was petting Bella. Tyler, remember what you told me under the bridge? You said kids should be protected. Well, you protected me and then Dad protected both of us. We all saved each other. Tyler smiled, remembering that scared little girl he'd found in a basement, and the broken man who had found the courage to open his heart. You know what the best part is, Tyler said. Tomorrow, Sophia starts at Riverside Academy with a full scholarship. And next month, 12 more kids from the streets will have homes with families who want them. Harrison nodded. Your mother would be so proud of the man you're becoming, Tyler. I think she'd be proud of all of us, Tyler replied. We took something terrible and made it beautiful. As they headed upstairs to bed, Tyler paused at the family portrait hanging in the hallway. Harrison, Emma, and Tyler, all smiling, all belonging. 3 years ago, Harrison Blackwell had been a wealthy man with an empty heart. Emma had been a frightened child stolen from safety. Tyler had been a forgotten boy with nothing but the clothes on his back. Tonight they were simply a family, bound not by blood or circumstance, but by the unbreakable bonds of love, sacrifice, and choice. And tomorrow they would wake up ready to save more children, one second chance at a time.